she's never held back my ambition. She's always encouraged me to be as ambitious as I possibly could. When I quit my job 10 years ago, she was like, yeah, let's go. Let's start your own business. Let's do this.
I find myself a lot of times actually like driving home thinking, holy cow, where would my business be without Preston? I don't think my business would be here or where it is without him.
Welcome to the Couplepreneurs Show, where we reverse engineer the success of some of today's most influential power couples in business. Every episode is designed to give you proven and practical steps that you can use to grow a business alongside your significant other without growing apart in the process.
Yeah, today we're very happy to welcome and to introduce you to Preston and Lauren Anderson. So Preston is a CPA who specializes in saving his clients money through individualized tax strategies. He loves working with business owners, especially digital entrepreneurs, and helps them think differently about how to handle their finances when it comes to taxes. Lauren is a graphic designer turned cookier, obsessed with creating more joy in life and in the kitchen. She decorated her first cookie when she was going through the hardest years of her life. After having a baby with a serious medical condition, her life changed in an instant. Her son's needs were so tremendous that she left her graphic design career and became his around-the-clock caretaker. Eventually, she found some stability and decided to bring something into her life that was just for her, cookie decorating. Now she gets to share the basics of how to get started with cookies, as well as mastering techniques to thousands of fellow cookiers at Lolly's Home Kitchen, with her courses like Cookie Camp, popular recipes, and creative themed decorating classes. Preston and Lauren, so good to have you guys here.
So good to be here. So good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
So glad to have you here.
Yes.
Cookiers. I think that was the first time I've heard that word.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. And just to give some context for what it is that you've done and the businesses that you've grown, could you explain to our audience what a cookier is and how you've grown a very successful business in the cookier business?
Yeah, so somebody who likes to bake is called a baker. So someone who decorates sugar cookies, it's typically those who decorate sugar cookies with royal icing are called cookiers.
Mm.
So I guess it applies to those who decorate sugar cookies with buttercream icing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, buttercream frosting. So somebody who decorates cookies.
I love it. And
You'd be surprised at how many cookiers there are within like the baking community.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's one of those things that like it's the perfect Pinterest, right? Like your cookies are gorgeous.
Yeah. And just for everybody listening, who we're talking to right now it's just a powerhouse power couple in business where we have two people, husband and wife. They own two separate businesses and they do very, very well for themselves. Like they do very well. They're making a very unique impact. But in addition to making a unique impact, this couple is comprised of very unique individuals. So that's one of the things we really want to talk about, because there are going to be people listening to this who feel like they are very different than their partner, whether they own two separate businesses in one household or they're even working together in business. So that is one of the things that we want to talk about with them, right?
Yeah. And I think what we admire about you guys is just how different you are, right? You have two different businesses, like, CPA and cookier is totally different. You have different personalities, from our perspective, seemingly different strengths, right? You guys are total opposites. And I think one of the things that we see is many people seem to think that being different is like a problem to solve, right? And so you guys are successful business owners, you have a thriving family life, and you seem very happy. So the first question I'd love to hear from you is, tell us about your relationship dynamic and how that looks as two very different people and how you guys make it work as a couple.
Okay, well, opposites really do attract. So I think I remember when I was in college and I thought, man, because my background's in graphic design, I naturally creative, although you don't have to be creative to do cookies, by the way, but
I've done them.
He's done them. He's actually done cookies. But I remember thinking that, man, I need to find a husband that's a web programmer, because that would go right along with me being a graphic designer. And I thought that, I needed somebody that was so much like me. And then when I found Preston, man, I was like, oh, he's exciting. Like, he's fun. Like, he brings this whole other element into my life that I never had before and that I could never find with any of the similar like people that I had met and dated. So, I think opposites really do attract. I find myself a lot of times actually like driving home thinking, holy cow, where would my business be without Preston? Like, I am not a numbers person. Okay. I like to make things pretty. Like, even when I'm not doing cookies, like I just love, I can see the beauty and how I can change the house to, make it look like how I want, how I can make the next cookie design. I don't think about the numbers. I've had to learn how to like look at numbers in a way that I understand so that I can make my business run. But he's largely in charge of the financial side. And I don't think my business would be here or where it is without him.
So we both rub off on each other a little bit as well. When I met my wife, like, she had never even heard of a profit and loss statement, I'm going to guess. Okay.
I have no idea.
And at this point, 13 years later, she's a profit hawk. Like, she's like, all right, how does this translate to the bottom
I get
line?
mad when I'm like, but I'm not making anything.
So, yeah, I've definitely taught her a lot, and a lot of that has rubbed off on her, and she's definitely grown in that aspect, which is cool. But I have not grown 1 ounce in creativity.
He has. He did cookies one year.
I did cookies one December.
Yeah, for one of our community, actually, we had him do cookies over the course of a few days, and everyone loved watching him attempt to bake and decorate cookies.
Yeah. I baked cookies one time in my entire life, and it was that week. So I think we probably should do it again for Christmas.
I think we'll have to do it again. I think you'd be a lot better.
Yeah.
But,
That's a great testament, though. If you've never baked cookies before and then you did just that one time, that's great.
They look spectacular. They were like as good as hers. They weren't as good as hers. They were as good as many people in the community. Like they were phenomenal. I'm not gonna like touting myself, but they were good. It was a lot of fun.
I was impressed. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think something though that like, I don't know, I think it probably settled in more as the years have gone on in our marriage. We've been married 13 years. And I think I appreciate more every, as time goes on, like his differences, because I'm like, but I don't have that, so I'm glad that he does, because he's way more competitive than I am. I'm not competitive, actually. I'm like, so not competitive. But I think it's just, I see now what a blessing it is. And I've let that work. I've let that be like, okay, well, I need him to do these certain things in our life, in our married life, in the business. And he needs me too. He needs me.
Really, really do.
That's amazing.
So I'm not as involved in his business though.
So we've gone back and forth. Like we've been married 13 years. We've had, I think, maybe a dozen businesses together. There's businesses that we've done. We had a Christmas tree business. We had a Shave Ice Shack. We have like a lot. And early on in this business, in her cookie business, I tried to kind of put my CPA stuff on the back burner, like just kind of let it simmer, keep my clients, but not really add, and spend as much time with her as I could. Being that involved didn't work. She's done the same with my business, where she was super, super involved in my business and tried the marketing. Once again, we work really great when we're like tangentially in each other's businesses, but not day to day, all day, every day. What we found, like we help each other. We're both visionaries for our businesses, for each other's business.
Yeah.
And we help each other kind of in those aspects, but we don't try to get too involved in the other's business.
But that's been a learning curve. It didn't automatically. I would say that's actually been fairly recent, where we're like, hey, we know the lanes now, because there's been struggles. There's been major struggles with, okay, I want him involved, but like he's driving me crazy. Like I can't have him be doing this, and then I start to second guess myself, like, oh, maybe I should be running it this way if he's saying it has to be that way. And then so there's definitely been some learning curves. And I think for him too, there's been some, instances with finances where you've shared with me after, I really should have asked you about that. Or, I think you've started to appreciate more my creative ability in your business.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll ask me questions, relating to that if he's diving into a project or something. So
yeah.
I love it. Well, what I love about what you guys are saying is that there's a large percentage of couplepreneurs who listen to the show and who are in our community that can relate to the fact that they and their significant other are both the visionary type of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So you see, of course, some dynamics where you have a visionary and an integrator, if we're going to use that language.
Yeah.
But you two are not that. Ariel and I are.
We're not. No.
Yeah.
We have friends that are like, okay, they're visionary and integrator kind of operational person.
Yeah.
I have a lot more of that in me, I think, than Preston.
I have no integrator in me whatsoever.
Well, integrator, let's talk integrator is really operational. So that's operations of the business. I don't love the term integrator, but that's a whole other story.
Oh yeah, we're with you on that. And we can relate to you in that sense because both Ariel and I are visionary and we could be integrators if we need to be.
Have to be, yeah.
And early on in our dynamic, we had to figure out how in the world could we both be very strong-minded people, but still contribute to each other in the way that is helpful, in a way that we don't overstep the other person's strengths or compete with each other's strengths. So for you two, it sounds like you've had to walk that line as well. Am I correct in that?
Oh, it's been 13 years in the making.
Yeah.
Okay.
This has not come easily, I don't think. I mean, there was a time when he was doing his accounting business and I attempted to do some marketing and I was fresh out of taking care of Micah all the time. Micah's our youngest son who had the heart issues. And
we were in 266 at the time.
We were, I kind of messed things up for him actually. And I was like, oh, hindsight, honey, sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm really sorry. I was, a learning experience. I realized like, oh, maybe I'm not so great at that, but I am really great at this other creative thing over here. And so.
Yeah. Well, what I love about it is you both started down this path, just owning your own visions and seeing where you can work well together and where you cannot work well together. Yeah. And you learn just through experience and probably some trials, some fiery trials, I should say, of like where you guys clash and where it actually is collaborative. So I guess just to put a fine point in this, being the fact that Preston is more of a numbers guy and being the fact that Lauren, you are much more creative and you can walk into a space and make it beautiful. What does your working dynamic look like today when you still have two business owners running two businesses in one household? What does the crossover look like and what does the separation look like?
So now you want to hear me first?
Yeah,
okay. So I vehemently protect my time and especially my focus time. So because our kids are at home for school now, I recharge with quiet. I also need a certain amount of quiet to focus. And like when I'm doing deep work, when I'm like, writing or designing, like I need a certain atmosphere. And so I really have to protect that. And so we've learned that during a regular work day, right? We try and start work by 9. We're usually done around 3 or 4-ish because the kids are kind of 5, 7, 8 p.m., whatever.
As it goes.
As it goes. Yeah. So, I need that time and he's learned to understand that. We've had lots of conversations about like, okay, I know if you want to chat, that's fine, but we got to do it when I'm not in a certain zone. Or he'll come into my office and judging by the vibe in my office, he'll know whether he can talk to me or not.
Yeah.
And then other times he's actually really good about me interrupting him because sometimes I just need an answer to a question or, hey, I'm
okay being interrupted. I don't protect my tongue
that.
as well as she does. She has been phenomenal at it. And
but
like
he also
she said, when I walk in the room, I can tell if it's can I come in or not a chance. She always just barges into my room. If I'm on a call, obviously no, but
I respect his
otherwise, like there is no point in time where she can not come into my office and just.
But he's also a totally different personality type too. So he's very extrovert. He needs that connection with people, and he wants that. So I don't know. We learned kind of how to structure our business workday.
Okay.
As far as like those times where our lives both revolve around calendars. We put it on the calendar, it happens. If it does not get on the calendar, it's not happening.
Yes.
And so our lives 100% revolve around that stinking Google Calendar.
100%. Well, it needs to, because otherwise what you have is two very driven people in one household that are also not just running their own businesses, but you have a family that you're running together as well. You have a life that you're creating together. So if both of you aren't synced up together on that and it doesn't actually live on the calendar, I've totally been there. We know how it can never happen. Yeah. So for anybody watching that, one of the biggest themes that you might be picking up from all of the episodes as you're listening to this is just the importance of intentionality of where you put your time, where you put your focus, and how you and your significant other work together in each other's preferences,
Yeah.
of course, considering those to actually accomplish the things that you need in order to thrive as individuals. Now, Preston and Lauren, I have to ask you this as well, because you were two different people with, I'm imagining two different perspectives. How do you guys go about making decisions with those two different perspectives?
So I love that question because really it's whose ultimate domain is it, right? If it's something, if it's a heavy decision that's got to be made about my business, I'm the ultimate like decider in that.
Mhm.
He has
I have
sway,
input,
he has input, like I
but
heavily
ultimately
weigh
it's her
his,
decision.
right. I heavily weigh heavily weigh what he shares with me or what his opinions are, but ultimately it's my decision. And I ask him, make sure, hey, like, I think this is what I'm going to decide. Do I have your support?
Hmm.
And then he can decide whether or not he's going to support me in that. And then same,
But
and
ultimately, it's her decision. If I don't support
Yeah.
her, she's like, it's still her baby and her decision.
I think that has been a learning curve. I think that's been harder for you to like see
Yeah,
that. Yeah, it's
100%.
really hard for him to be like, okay, hands off, because even though I'm so affected by my wife's business, I got to let her make those final decisions. So, and then same with his, like,
I've taken the emotion out of it as well.
Yeah.
I used to get like vehemently upset when things didn't go the way I thought they should.
And then I was like, I'm a failure. Forget it. Just shut everything down then. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this. So he's learned.
My wife is a cat, right? And so
A cat? Is that what you said? Like a cat? Like a
like
furry
you know
meow
how,
cat?
Like a
yeah,
cat.
like you know how like a dog, you come home and it's just like on you and
Wants to be with you.
yeah.
And all that.
and then there's the cat personality where
Like,
not
okay.
quite anyway, if I like offend my wife at all, it's like she withdraws from me a little bit.
A little bit.
Similar to a cat.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I've had to learn how to kind of deal with that because both of our personalities are very different as well, right? And so I've had to learn how to deal with that. And if I get upset, she feels like a failure. It's not that she's a failure. Like, okay, so
Yeah.
something we didn't work and we canceled an event and we lost a boatload of money. Like, okay, it happens.
Yeah.
Life happens. It's not that either of us are a failure, even that the business is a failure. Okay, one idea didn't work. No big deal. We learn from it and move on.
Yeah.
Rather than I used to get upset about those things.
Yeah. When it
Yeah.
comes to his business, I'm more hands off than you are with my business. So
Yeah.
like all
I
of
still ask you-
his decisions are up to him, and he definitely still asks me.
I generally ask her about big things when I'm hiring somebody.
Yeah.
So I have like 5 or 6 team members.
I'll interview people sometimes
Yeah,
just to get a take on it because
Okay.
She's
I've got
better at
good
that kind of
spot-
stuff than I am.
I've got good spidey senses
She
about
does.
some things that he doesn't.
I have a lot of blind spots. She watches those from.
Yeah.
You know what though? What I'm noticing from you two is that you both are so self-aware of where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and there seems to be a reverence and respect for one another for what they add to the table that are different than what you have.
100%.
Which is, yes, it is incredible. And it's, I would say, a requirement for any couplepreneur to succeed in any way, because otherwise, as you both maybe have experienced early on in your relationship, it could feel like a lot of turmoil, like trying to figure out how to navigate this. But just because this is so evident in you two, I want to ask, like, was there a turning point in your marriage or your business journey where you started to see that reality of like, oh shoot, I guess I'm not good at these things and my spouse is better at it and we can actually do more together than apart? Was there ever like an epiphany that happened?
So one thing I've seen in my wife, okay, when we got married, how do I say this without being a jerk?
It's okay.
She had no
He's taking the emotion
I
completely.
have no confidence.
she had very little confidence. Okay. I call her my ugly duckling because
Oh my gosh, how are you gonna dig yourself out of this one?
she's not a duck. She's not a duck. She's a beautiful swan. She didn't see it, right? And so she couldn't see that she was a swan. She couldn't see how beautiful she was. She couldn't see a lot of those things in herself. I shined a spotlight on them.
Yeah.
And in doing so, there's a movie from our religion called Moana. What's that one?
All the 10 cows.
Yeah. So there's a saying called "She's my 8 cow wife." It's very weird, very Mormon. But if you're LDS, you understand that saying. If you're not, you probably don't. But like he overpaid. Everybody thought he was going to pay only half a cow or no cows. He's like, I'm going to pay 8 cows because
Which was super
which was
expensive.
crazy. Nobody ever paid that much for a wife. And she all of a sudden saw in herself what she was, because she all of a sudden lifted herself up like, oh, I'm a wife.
I'm worth 8 cows.
This
Yeah.
is my 50 cow wife.
Oh,
50 cows.
She is my swan. She could not see that in herself beforehand. And I think just shining a spotlight on that and being as supportive as I possibly could through it all, like, I just see how amazing she is. And by telling her that, like, she has blossomed into this amazing, she's always been an amazing person.
I heard one time, and I took it as my own saying now, is I heard someone say that their husband gives them wings to fly. And I thought it was amazing because that's what he does for me. It's like, he gives me wings to fly. Like, when he knows that there's something that I can accomplish and I just need support, then like, he's all for it. And in so many other ways too.
Yeah.
One
of the things as well, like you said, I don't think we're answering the question that
you might have to repeat the question.
One of the things that Lauren has done for me is she has never held me back from an idea. So I've always, if I have gone to her and if she thinks the idea is going to fail, like, obviously she voices her opinion, but she's never held back my ambition. She's always encouraged me to be as ambitious as I possibly could. When I quit my job 10 years ago, she was like, yeah, let's go. Let's start your own business. Let's do this. Every single time that I have had a chance in my life to be ambitious, she has pushed me along that path instead of holding back. And I've tried to do the same with her as well. So, that's a very different question, but I answered something.
That's okay. I think that answer was
better.
the right answer. It was the right answer, and it was needed because you both just touched on something that is so important for everybody to remember.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to be each other's biggest fans. And a lot of times, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, it could feel like you are not really supported by your peer group or the people around you. So what's very important is to have that support within the 4 walls of the house, to recognize the strengths and giftedness in other people and call it out in our spouse. Like, if we're with our spouse, we can see the greatness in them. I actually think it's our moral obligation to call that out and to use our strength to lift that up in each other. And you two are setting a fantastic example of that. Yeah. So I think it was the right answer, regardless of what the question was.
Yeah.
Because that is, once again, required to make this work. Now, because I did touch on this, I do want to dive a little bit deeper into the fact that when you and your spouse are both entrepreneurs, you could sometimes be viewed as, or even feel like, the black sheep in other social groups. So you might go out on a double date with another couple and they ask you what you do for a living, and you start telling them what you do or about your goals, and they look at you like you're crazy. So I'm just curious, have you guys experienced that yourself as well? And if so, how have you navigated that feeling so different, being that you're ambitious entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I recently actually experienced that, and it's been hard. It's been hard to, like, that you need what you need to do in your business helps you become the person that you need and want to be. And I've changed a lot over the last few years of even just running this business, but then it's almost like, well, how do I interact with people now? Am I only going to be able to interact with other people who are entrepreneurs and get it? Or like, how can I have conversations with people? And I don't know, it's been hard.
That has been, I think, one of the things that we actually did 3 years ago, we moved states right at in 2021, as her business was starting to take off. And as my business was starting to take off as well, we actually left Illinois and moved to South Dakota. And in doing so, in that old area, we kind of had a lot of patterns, and people, when you change, it's really hard for other people to see that change. And we almost kind of had a complete reset. So people here didn't know us. And so we could kind of be
who we needed to be.
We could be who we needed to be. We could be the growth Preston, the growth Lauren, which was great. And so a lot of the, we've tried to find entrepreneur friends here. But still, there are those times when, as an entrepreneur, you tell people your goals and they look at you cross-eyed like,
what are you talking about? Like
I have a thing on my board saying make $75,000 days normal. Okay. We've had a day that was $75,000.
Yeah.
That's most people's years.
Yeah.
Right. 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we want to do that every single day.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of like, I don't want to be egotistical or
Right.
arrogant about like, money is just a thing. It's right. It's just a temple. Nothing more. And it can be used to help people. We actually have a charity that we give money to, like that is our own 501c3. It's not ours, but
Right.
we started it. Well, not anyway. Like money is just nothing more than a tool, and it is a tool that can be used for good, for evil, all of the things.
Okay.
And so, but when you talk to money does really weird things to other people when you talk about it the way that I talk about it. Because to me, I talk about
He
my
talks
numbers.
about money all day long. And so for
Yeah.
him, like talking about, something's $5,000 or, 50,000. We bought a $5,000 massage chair when we first moved here because we
Heck
could. Like, holy cow, it has helped me so much. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
I've given Russell Brunson $250,000. Like,
But I can't tell certain people. I don't feel like I can tell everybody that. Like, that was $5,000, no big deal. Like, holy cow, even me, like 5 years ago
Right.
would have balked at that, would have thought, no way are you doing that. So I recently had an experience where I felt very out of place. It's hard to make friends as an entrepreneur. I don't feel like I could be as vulnerable with people right off the bat, so it takes a little bit to get to, feel them out, so they're going to be able to accept the you that you would like to be able to share. But my daughter, we were invited, she and I were invited to, by a friend of ours from church, but we were invited to like this book club. And book clubs are not really my thing. I'll be honest. Like I'm an audiobook person or a short read kind of person. But my daughter loves books and reading. I was like, hey, it would be good for us to go. I think it'd be good for us to go. I'd love to like interact with more people. We got there and I immediately was like, oh, I forgot how much I don't love big rooms of people that I'm not sure I know. And like, how long is this going to last? And so anyway, I ended up taking 2 books. Oh man. One of them was very funny, but it wasn't appreciated by people.
called Toddlers Are Assholes.
It's called Toddlers Are Assholes, and it was the most funniest book that helped me literally not go into depression when my kids were toddlers, and I was like on my rope every day, and I would read this book and I would laugh my head off. And we were told to bring books that we really were impacted us. So I was like, well, I'm bringing this one. And then I brought another book that I honestly had half read on a vacation. It was really great. I just didn't have time to read the rest of it. I'm like, okay, I'll take these. So I also, apparently when you go to a book club and you're gifting books, you're supposed to get brand new ones and you're supposed to wrap them up. Well, I didn't do that. So immediately I was like, oh shoot, I'm that person that's like not having it all together. Anyway, through the book exchange, my daughter was having a great time because she was with some of her friends. So I was so grateful for that. But I felt very out of place and I had a hard time making conversation, and I definitely couldn't share anything about business. When I told people about the books that I had brought, because we were doing that, and I let them know, hey, normally I read business books, but I did y'all a favor and didn't bring those. And I could tell they were all relieved. They were like, oh gosh, thank goodness you didn't bring business books. So it was hard. It was the first time I honestly had kind of really tried to get out locally. Like we go to business events, I can, have conversations and network with people, but
Friendships there.
yeah. And I don't know, it's something I'm going to continue working on because I want to feel normal. But as an entrepreneur, I don't feel normal sometimes, a lot of times. And I feel it's lonely. It can get really lonely. Yeah.
Sure.
And I feel judged. I feel like, oh shoot, they're judging me. I swear I'm not whoever you probably think that I am right now. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate you being so vulnerable about that, because you're echoing what I could only imagine are the thought patterns that are running through so many entrepreneurs' minds right now, where they don't feel comfortable being in rooms of book clubs or going to church and talking about the $100,000 day that they just did from their challenge, or talking about the tens of millions of dollars that they hope to one day generate in order to build a team and to feed their family, to feed the families of other people on their team, to give charitably. And what I see, at least from our experience, is that society doesn't tend to respond well to that type of conversation.
No.
But what I love about you two, though, is that you're getting to a point, and you are to the point, I should say, where you kind of have decided, you know what, even if that's what they say, I'm still going to do what I'm called to do. I'm still going to be who I'm called to be. So I would love to just kind of reflect back to you guys and hear from you. Like, how did you get to the point where you finally said, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to be myself and
Can
let
I
the
take
fall
this
into me.
one? You can chime in too, but I wish that the topic of money and talking about money was not so taboo in general society, right? I wish that was the case. We can try and, make that the case, but I grew up in a trailer.
Mm.
I grew up with not having a lot. My parents, bless their hearts, they didn't teach me how to manage money very well. I learned everything about managing finances from my husband in the last 13 years. I was that person in college who felt like if I had $100 in my bank account, that was a lot of money. That's total opposite for him.
We
He's
have
like,
very different definitions of broke.
so I understand what it's like to not have money. And I understand the kinds of pressures and things that happen with that. When we were early on in our marriage, and then when Micah came along, I honestly was sick of the carrot dangling in front of my face. I thought I always wanted that. I just want to be able to go to Target. I'm going to get emotional. I just want to be able to go to Target and buy my kids whatever they want without worrying about money. Like, when is that going to happen for me? When am I finally going to be able to do that? When am I going to finally live in maybe a new house? I never, ever lived in a brand new house. My dad was he's a builder. He's very creative as well. And he built our home that we ended up moving into after we lived in our trailer. It was never finished, right? It was never completely finished. And I always remember wishing that, like, okay, someday I'm going to live in a new house. And man, honestly, and I'll say it, my give a damn busted. I was so desperate for like getting that carrot that finally I could have that, that I thought, okay, I'm going to choose. I'm not going to let that hang there anymore. And I'm so sick of feeling this way. I'm sick of like striving for it. I want it. I'm going after it. And nothing is going to stop me. That was it for me. That was when I was like, I can't lose. I know I'm going after it. I don't care what anybody says, Preston. I don't care if you think I can't handle it. I'm doing it anyway. So get along for the ride because we're going.
And just so everybody knows, you eventually got that. Is that
I did. Yeah. I eventually got that. And we're still living it. And it's,
Yeah, we're in a brand new home. We've been here since 21, 2.5 years. And yeah, we've accomplished most of our goals. I mean, not everything, but
and it isn't, as it goes along.
It's still a process. We keep growing and learning. And like, the thing is, the thing that I've realized is every time I climb a mountain, there's just another mountain.
There's another
For sure.
Right?
It's true.
We hit our goals and we're like, okay, that was really cool. Like, all right, what's next?
Yeah.
So.
Something else that really fueled me, because I think with I think everybody in life goes through some sort of major traumatic event where they're given the opportunity to choose which direction. I have had every opportunity in my life to remain depressed as a victim, whatever you want to call it. And I did that for a lot of years. And it was finally, I was like, I give a damn, it's done. I don't want to live this way anymore. I'm choosing to do this other thing. And I remember feeling I was sitting at the dining table in our old house in Chicago, and our youngest son, Micah, who had the 3 heart surgeries, he was in and out of the hospital. And my husband at the time, it was when you told me that you didn't believe in me, but he did it strategically. It was weird. We'll have to describe that another day. It was, he didn't think, I had been procrastinating building the cookie thing, right? And he expressed some like disinterest. And I was like, no. Like, I was so angry and I felt so hurt that I remember it finally clicked for me and was like, that's the fuel, Lauren. Like, that's your fuel. Like, that's what's going to get you to where you want to go.
I have to explain. I had been at 10X with Grant Cardone prior to that. I think it was a year prior. And Grant Cardone talked about how his wife wanted to write a book and she kept procrastinating. And he said, I don't believe in you. And she went in her bedroom and wrote the book in a week.
Oh.
And she came out and it was done. And she threw it on the table and said, there's your dang book. And he's like, well, I've always believed in you. And
he's tried it.
Lauren, it was a one-time use. The next time we're divorced. So
yeah, he will never use it again.
never again. But it was, I believed in my wife the entire time. I saw what he did. She wrote the book. I'm like, all right, well, maybe it'll work here. It did.
It did. It worked.
But the backlash, I don't recommend it.
I was going to say that's the takeaway from this episode is tell your wife or your husband that you don't believe in them and see what happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need an enemy to be able to focus and I allowed myself to be that enemy for her for a week or a month, however long it was. But
like a week or two.
yeah,
And
but
then I figured it out.
we talked about it afterwards, and I explained what happened, and she's like, she threw it at the desk. Their cookie camp is done. And I'm like, I've always believed in you. I knew you could do this. And yeah.
I'm not competitive, but there is something about like, even if you feel like people don't believe in you, I'm like, there's just this something that's like, okay, I'll show you. Then the only way that I can like be seen and heard is to show you. I'll show you what I'm made of then.
Yes.
So.
Well, I think the practical application that a couple can take from that is to recognize the fire and the motivation that your spouse has and use it strategically, intentionally, and wisely. Of course, like, you know, some people make crumble, not to be too cookie, you know, not to use too many cookie puns here, but some people make crumble under that pressure when other people are like, oh yeah, watch this. I got you. So it's important to recognize what motivates your spouse and use that strategically.
Before that moment, I was the one that was crumbling under it. I would always be like, well, I'm the victim. I'm not good enough. And I guess I can't do this. And I'm never going to achieve that. Like I was given the opportunity to choose, and I could feel that fire, and I chose. And I think it was just, you know, every year I become more self-aware, but you're absolutely right. Like you have to learn to recognize that and to not let yourself crumble, because it can go either way. We can choose to be victims of our circumstances, or we can choose to like use them as fuel.
Yes. Now, how did you recognize what motivates each other? Like, is there something you looked at, or are you just both very highly perceptive people?
We've been through a lot of personal development together.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been through a lot of personal development by choice that was all completely fueled by our youngest son and his medical issues.
So when Micah went through the hospital, like it broke both of us.
Yeah.
Like legit, I was a puddle. I was not getting out of bed till noon most days. And I found Tom Bilyeu, and I found Les Brown. I found these people that like really spoke to me. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can take a step. And then I paid for a coach to help me like actually go from like crawling to walking. What was cool was like this coach helped me to like actually get out of bed daily and like start living my life again. With Lauren, we worked together for like 6 months to like make baby steps. I felt like everybody hates Bob, right? Like just baby steps. With Lauren used the same coach, and in 4 weeks, she's like, all right, I'm going on and sprinting now. I'm like, oh, man, just everything she's done.
Talk about the difference. We're like total opposites. I don't know. Yeah. So he started kind of fueling that personal development thing, and then I caught on. But I think because our son going through heart surgeries, nearly dying multiple times, and just trying to get him to a place where he would stay alive, it broke us. Like it pushed me to the point where I didn't have any more left to give by force. I had to figure out how am I going to live? Like what actually motivates me? Like who do I want to be? And we figured that out together.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, a lot of it's hindsight too. Hindsight's 2020, and we
trial and error.
That's incredible, though, that I mean, it's obviously a very terrible circumstance that you both have experienced and walked through together. But on the other side of that, what I love is that through going through that fire in your life, what came out of it is such a heightened awareness of what motivates both of you to get out of bed in the morning, what motivates you to build amazing businesses, what motivates you to stay together. And that's that awareness of not only your own motivation, but the motivation of your spouse is so cool and so rare. And it makes sense that you two are doing what you do. Having completely opposite personalities, two driven visionary people in one household, and still you guys make it work.
Yeah.
And I want to ask too, as we kind of wrap up here a little bit, like when it comes to like the marriage side of things, how do you guys detach as two visionaries from these like amazing ideas that you operated to actually come together as husband and wife?
Okay, I have a couple of thoughts on that. So this came up when you had asked another question earlier about like kind of our schedules and stuff, we try really hard. We're not perfect at it. We try really hard to keep business downstairs near our offices and keep like stuff out of certain areas of the home, honestly.
She's much better at than I am.
I'm much
She's
better. I
constantly
have
yelling at
you can't talk to me about finances in the bedroom. Knock it off. I'm stressed, you know?
There's nothing
So-
sexy than accounting, though.
Oh yeah, man. Just woo, yeah, let's make out after you're like, yeah, I don't want to after we just went over the P&L. That's great.
Give it. I was gonna make a bad joke, like new definition of P&L, but anyways. Anyway,
Yeah, so we the kitchen area, like if we're up there during the day, you know, grabbing lunch, we'll talk business. And usually when our kids are like, oh my gosh, can we talk about something else? We're like, oh, okay, we're done. We're done for the day, you know, talking about business stuff.
I don't mind talking about business in front of the kids though. Like,
Yeah, we
I
do.
love talking about money, finances, all the
Yeah.
things in front of the kids. My goal is to help them become entrepreneurs as well. But like we still try to do date night. We have it on our calendar. Once again, it's scheduled because that's
Yeah.
what we do with things.
Yeah, so
It's-
date night and doing things that like I often ask them, I'm like, "Ugh, what else can we talk about that's not business? Because I'm kind of like I'm done with work for the week. Like I need to
Yep.
decompress. I need some downtime. Like what else can we do and talk about? So
So we try to find
we have
food
we
or
do have other things.
other stuff.
But you know, honestly, it is like sections of the house. We designate for certain things. Our homeschool area, there's a certain room as homeschool. We don't do a lot of other things in there. The you know, like bedrooms, our kids aren't, we don't have devices in the kids' bedrooms. We don't do school in the bedrooms. We don't, you know, we keep those for sleeping and resting. We both have separate offices, so that's largely where we'll have conversations and things about work. The better we are at that, honestly, the better I think our personal marriage relationship is.
Yeah.
We can kind of manage it better.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so you guys are amazing. Thank you for sharing so many nuggets with our audience. I think there's so many things that people can take and run with from this, which is, you know, whether it's recognizing each other's strengths, whether it's being each other's biggest fans, or whether it's just, you know, separating certain sections of the household that you focus certain attention in certain areas of your life, be it homeschool, be it the business, whatever that is. So if there is anybody that wants to connect with you guys, how would they do so?
Oh, sorry, say that again.
How would they connect with us?
Connect with us. Well, I am Lolly's Home Kitchen on all socials, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. You can visit my website at lollysHomeKitchen.com or lollyscookiecamp.com. So that's where I am. Yeah.
I'm at Anderson.tax. I'm an accountant.
You can
It's
find
really
him.
exciting.
You can find him on Facebook. We can find you on Facebook.
Yeah,
if you want to
Facebook.
connect with him, are you Capitalist Pig?
No, Preston 312.
Preston.
On Instagram, I'm Capitalist Pig 312.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. So whether you want to you want help being a cookier or you want help with your taxes, there's
Right.
such a wide variety of ways that you can receive value from this amazing couple. So thank you both for sharing. I have one more question for you before we wrap, which is simply this, and I want to challenge you to answer it like in your first gut reaction and probably in one sentence if you can. Okay, so here's the question. If you walked on stage to an audience of only entrepreneur couples and you can only give them one piece of advice that has been helpful for you, your marriage, and your business, what would that one piece of advice be?
Just start. Start whatever idea you have, whatever new project, whatever conversation you need to have with your spouse about work or whatever. Just start it.
Love that.
So good.
Preston, what would you say?
Fear is nothing more than excitement. Like when you're scared of something, you got to dive in.
It's the same
Love
feeling. Fear and excitement are like the same
thing.
emotion.
Yeah.
Same emotion, but different expectation of outcome, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So, and I like your answers because they both are kind of like looking at a similar feeling of
Yes.
hesitation and fear from a different lens, which is if you're watching this and you know you need to have that conversation with your spouse, you know you need to start that business, you know it's time to leave that job, you know it's time to start taking steps towards your calling and your dream, just start, because that fear is actually just excitement. When you put your faith in the positive outcome that is just as likely, or if not even more likely than the negative outcome we're making up in our minds, if you just start and move forward, you have no idea what level of impact is on the other side of that. So thank you both so much for just sharing your wisdom. Thank you so much for joining us on the Couplepreneurs Show. And for everybody else, thank you for always showing the rest of the world that you can have both a thriving business and thriving relationship at the same time. We will see you in the next show.
Thank you.